Hey everybody, Nick here, and today I got a review for you of this little guy right here. This is the HMC Transient Micro. Very interesting piece. First off, though, I want to thank very much my buddy Jason for loaning this guy my way briefly. He's a Patreon patron, good buddy, and I said, Nick, I think you should check one of these guys out. It's just weird enough you might like it, and I absolutely, I'm glad to do that. I don't take a lot of loaners these days, but his timeline was very easy, etc. It was a beautiful thing, so thanks for that, Jason. Next thing, let's do a little bit of size comparison here. This is not a big knife. Well, first off, put it up next to a standard U.S. ruler. Yeah, this is not particularly large. What we see here is the blade length is uncontroversially under 2.5 inches. In terms of your relative size, put this guy here next to the Spyderco Delica, as well as the Ontario Rat number 2. Yeah, not a very big knife, although it is a little bit on the thicker side. We can see here that in terms of thickness, we are about in the same vicinity as the Delica there. And then we'll put this guy next to the Spyderco PM2. And there we go. So we see here, yeah, this is very, very small. In fact, not quite. The entire knife almost fits through the middle there. And then we'll compare it to another nice, small, little everyday carry option, of course, the CRKT Shock. Yeah. Anyways, moving on. So there's that. Next thing, this is a production version of what has been a custom design. If you go to the website there, first thing I did was, looking it up. Well, first thing I did is I'm writing the reviews, go to the website, HMC Transient Micro, $800. Oh my God. But it turns out that's the custom version. This is the production version that is made by Best Tech Knives. He's been very open about that, for $275. And that becomes a much more reasonable approach. And so this is a production way to get some of his customs out there into the world. So, to me at least, that's, jumped ahead of myself. Let's go ahead and jump into the good, the great, the bad, and the ugly of this very interesting little knife. So on the good side to start with is a nice little aesthetic design. I think it's an attractive piece, 100%. And it is an attractive and slightly different piece, right? I mean, certainly, I can't think of a knife that looks all that similar to this one. Closest I can come up with is like the Isham Reticulan or something like that, but that's mostly because it's also small, and it's got a little bit of... Either way, it's a neat little aesthetic piece, and I can see people who love the customs loving the production here, obviously. Next thing, I like the size on this. Not necessarily as an everyday carry piece, because I think, 2.5 inches, that's probably closer to like 2.33, but anyways, I'm not saying this is the best size for every human, but what I am saying is that this is going to be in a range where it is still of some useful size, but it's going to be legal in places with 2.5-inch knife laws, like, as I recall, Boston and Cleveland both are, although, again, talk to a lawyer, not a YouTuber. And so I like the size very much for some people with some legal constraints. Next thing, this has a nice blade to it. It says 35 VN, as it says right here on the side here. It's got a very nice little grind coming down to a reasonably thin edge and tip, which is a beautiful thing. The action on it is quite good. There is a little bit of a learning curve, because if you've got your finger on the flipper tab, on the lock bar, that can provide a little too much tension, but very easily you can get this guy to deploy. Once you kind of get that down, you kind of have to preload the flipper a little bit, etc. But it does flip pretty reliably there. That time, I screwed it up. But nonetheless, you've got a good action there, and it's pretty easy to reliably... He says completely screwing this up. Oh my God. Doing this under a camera is not straightforward, I'm just saying. So anyways, yeah, there we go. Deploying this guy, it works, and it does definitely deploy. Next thing, this has a pretty nice little lock bar tension. What I mean by that is that the lock bar tension actually isn't all that strong. A lot of these kind of smaller flippers tend to do they get their detent from a very strong lock bar, but this means that this is very easy to deploy. This is very easy to... unlock afterwards. I'm screwing up this. Oh boy, yeah. This is the most trouble I've had deploying this knife at this angle. Go figure, right? But anyways, the lock bar tension is good. Makes it very easy to unlock the knife. Well, at the same time, it has a nice detent for actually opening, which is good. And then finally, on the good side, I like the strategic use of jimping, both here and then on the bottom as well, because what that enables you to do is to kind of choke up a little bit and then use this guy effectively, holding it in this way, which for me is the most comfortable grip, but you have enough grip on here that it's not like you're going to come falling off of this. And you can certainly choke back if you're in the Vaseline factory, and grip is most important. But for me, this is probably the most comfortable grip. It keeps you close to the blade, etc. And it works quite well, and it's partly enabled by that clever little jimping there. So to me, at least, that's what's good here, is that it's got the strategic jimping there. It's got nice lock bar tension, a nice action here. It's got a nice blade. It's under 2.5 inches, and it's got a neat aesthetic design. design. To me, what's great about this guy is that it is clearly off the beaten path. There aren't that many knives out there in this this size range. There aren't that many knives that are in this size range that are really trying to be reasonably well done. Certainly not with this design. This is going to be something that is not every person's knife, right? This isn't trying to compete with the PM2 for being everybody's everyday carry knife. No, this is a small knife, an interesting design. It's well made. It's going to appeal to a lot of people, but it's going to be a little different. And I appreciate that. In a world where there are so many same, this is different. And that's great. So to me, at least, that's what's great there. On the bad side, this is going to be pretty small for a lot of folks. I have relatively small hands, and even for me, when I choke up here, I got a 4-finger grip. But if I come back here, I'm, 2.5 fingers or something like that. This is probably not going to be a great choice if you have gigantic meat paws, for instance, rather than, in my case, well, we'll just stick with LBHs. That's definitely a thing. Next thing, the ergos on this guy definitely take a little bit of adaptation. It took me a while to figure out exactly that this is the grip that should be done here when it has this finger groove that's just calling your name, right? And you can do that. You can absolutely get a really good 2-finger grip on this and then kind of reinforce if you want to be a little further back. But at least for me, figuring out that this was the grip for it was kind of a game changer. Made it a lot better. Next thing, clip on this guy, a little tight. Not the end of the world, but it's definitely a little tight, and there's not quite as much give as I'd kind of like for it. And that makes this a little bit of a pain to get into and out of the pocket. And especially when you've got this external lock bar relief here. What you can see here is they've drilled those external, they drilled this milled, I suppose, yeah, out this lock bar relief, that is, outside of the knife. There is, for what it's worth, a lock bar insert with an over-travel stop in there. But nonetheless, they've drilled that on the outside, and that means that as you're putting this into your pocket is going to kind of go along this each time. I would have preferred to seen that inside. Would make this guy a little bit easier to pocket up. And so that's a thing. And then finally, actually not quite finally, the detent on this guy isn't the strongest thing ever. I think that's probably good because this doesn't have any kind of a flipper tab particularly. I mean, it's there, but it's very light. And with the angle it's at, you kind of need a little bit of a lighter detent, but that means that it's not going to be like a super snappy detent in the same way that you get other snappy detents in the world. And then finally, the price on this guy is pretty up there. This is $275, and honestly, although it's a fine little piece, and I can't really point to anything that's like, you did this wrong, this is, you cut corners, etc. No, it is, though, it's pretty up there, and this puts this against some of the better production knives out there in the world. So you really have to want to pay for this size, to pay for this design. You want to have this knife. You're not going to be picking this guy up on the basis of value alone. So to me, at least, that's what's bad, is that the price is up there. The detent is a little bit on the softer side, although I kind of get why it needs to be that way. It has the external lock bar relief that isn't great combined with the tight clip. The ergos take a little bit of learning, and it is going to be small for some folks. Nothing particularly ugly here, so let's go to the final conclusion, which is that this is a neat little knife, right? It's got a nice design, a very legal size, a nice blade, a nice grind, good action, good use of jimping, and an approach that is pretty unusual in a world of same. Mind you, it is going to be too small for a lot of folks. The ergos are definitely a little bit odd. The clip is a little tight with that lock bar relief causing some trouble. The detent does require some preloading to really get on there right, I think, and the price is absolutely up there. Ultimately, final conclusion, this is one of those you know it if you want it sort of things. A quarter of the viewing public will have already, too small, oh my God. And then another guy, oh my God, $275. Look, a bunch of people are already off the thing there, but among the people left, there were going to be some people who are interested in this. Some folks might come for the design. They might just look at that and go, okay, that's pretty, which it is. This is a cool little design. Some might come for the size, like, oh, wow, I live in a city where I can't carry much, and this is a nicer, higher-end flipper sort of thing that I can carry. That's great. And some might just like the novelty of having a little tiny knife that still looks actually kind of substantially big and mean, which is weird, right? There are a bunch of people who are going to be after this, but it's not going to be everything to everybody. This is not everybody's next perfect EDC knife, but I definitely know that there are going to be people out there for whom their interest in this knife will not be transient nor micro, I guess. So anyways, there you go. Hope this has been interesting to you, and have yourselves an absolutely wonderful rest of your day. Bye now.